Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. As you guys know, I love talking about trucks and many of you guys love owning a truck as well. But now there are so many choices among mid-size trucks, including the all-new Tacoma, also all-new GMC Chevrolet Colorado Canyon Twins, as well as proven Nissan Frontier. And now we have these new car-based unitized trucks such as the Honda Ridgeline, which has been around for a little while, but also the ever so popular Ford Maverick and then the new Hyundai Santa Cruz. So many choices, so difficult to choose. So today I'm going to help you decide whether you should buy the traditional body on the frame trucks or more up and coming car-based trucks, and to point out 8 key differences. Let's go. Welcome back. So I'm going to talk about 8 key differences between car-based trucks and body on the frame trucks. But right off the bat, I want to say that if a vehicle has an actual pickup bed in the back, like this Ridgeline, then by definition, it is still a truck. You might argue that it is not a real truck because it doesn't have a frame. Well, that could be argued either way. So let me explain to you some of the differences, and you can decide for yourself which type of truck is best for you. Let's do a quick quality check on this Honda Ridgeline, which has gone through a minor refresh for 2024, and we have a new trim model called the Trailsport, following the footstep of other Honda vehicles. So I welcome that because this is more capable in terms of off-roading. But first, let's take a look at the quality of this Ridgeline built in the US. And because it's a car-based vehicle, usually I expect the overall quality to be at least as good as other Honda vehicles as well. And as you can see, it is 3 millimeter, that's pretty tight. 3.74 millimeter and 4.1 millimeter. Same on the other side, I just checked it earlier. And alignment of the panels are very good, except a little bit off here, but that could be something that can be adjusted at a dealership. But in terms of paint job, I have some doubts just because there's a lot more orange peel than what I'd like to see along here. And also in terms of the clear coat, it's a bit thinner, I think, than I would like to see. It's still a very consistent paint, but let me just quickly measure the paint thickness to see what's going on. Now I'm going to check the paint thickness, but before I do want to mention that the Tacoma and the Ridgeline is comparable in terms of overall quality. In terms of thickness, let's take a look.
133 micron.
So this new gauge now talks to me, so it tells me what the thickness is. 133.
123 micron.
123 microns.
123 micron.
Exactly same. One more.
123 micron.
Interesting. It's all 123 microns and a little bit thicker on the hood at 133. So it's definitely a little bit thicker than what you will find in the typical Toyota models, including the Tacoma. They tend to range between 100 to 120 microns. We are ranging from between 123 to 133. In fact, I've been checking all around the car, and the paint thickness basically range from 120 all the way to, again, 133. So the paint thickness is good. I mean, there is sufficient base, mid-level, and clear coat to make sure that it has a good depth of paint. But maybe just needs buffing or waxing because I feel like it's a little bit dull around here. And again, that could just be due to environmental contaminants. So now that I've done the quick quality check, let me talk about the 8 key differences between frame-based trucks and car-based trucks. The first key difference is the most important one, and that's the obvious one as well, which is trucks like Tacoma and almost all of the mid-size trucks for that matter are using body on the frames, which means the actual shell of the body of the truck is separate from the frame underneath. The heavy-duty frames also houses the powertrain, including the engine, the transmission, and suspension pieces. Basically, everything gets tacked onto the heavy-duty frame, and then you add the shell on top, and then you put all the components inside. That's basically how the trucks are built. And that allows these vehicles to stay tough and to be very robust compared to unitized-body truck, which means that both the actual body itself and the underneath are all together into one body, which is why it's called monocoque body or unitized body. Unitized as in everything together. Now keep in mind that there is a kind of a frame underneath which you can't really see, but underneath this engine, and if you look through the behind the wheels, there's what we call a unitized frame, which is basically still a unitized body, still one piece, but they've shaped the actual metals into a frame just along here to give you the extra strength and stability. So it is not 100% frame free, but definitely it is a single unit instead of body and frame being separate. And that difference is the reason why many people will say this is not a real truck. I don't think that's a fair definition because it has a pickup bed and therefore it is a truck. But what that means is that in a very severe off-road conditions, obviously body on frame trucks have an advantage because the frame themselves are really strong and tough and durable. And also if something hits the frame, it doesn't damage the body. The two are separate. Whereas on the unitized body, if you actually damage something underneath, or you drive over something, or you bend something, well, the entire monocoque body has been affected, and therefore it's much harder to fix the body to the original shape and to the original rigidity. So that's some of the things that we have to keep in mind. But also in terms of engineering, the body on the frame trucks are easier to manufacture because the two are separated. It might cost a little bit more because of the fact that they are separated. And the unitized body is a little bit faster, easier to manufacture, and basically 99% of all vehicles in the world are unitized bodies, so there's nothing wrong with this design, just that it might not have the same durability and the same strength as body on the frame truck. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. But also keep in mind that having the frame or not having the frame has many implications in terms of the ride height, the driving character, and all that stuff, which is what I'm going to cover next. And that's another major key point between body on the frame and unitized trucks because they do drive very differently. Now keep in mind that body on the frame trucks are trying to become more like a car in terms of feel, and then car-based trucks are trying to bring a little bit more of a truck feel. So they're both trying to merge toward the center here. And that's a good example of this particular model, which is Trailsport. It has many of the off-road components and tires and so forth to give you that truck feel. But still, there's fair amount of difference between the two. If you drive the Tacoma, then you know, even though it's smoother, more refined, and more capable than ever, it still has that traditional truck feel. And when you're driving it, you can tell that there's a fair amount of isolation between the cabin and the road. And also, it's a bit bumpy. You just cannot eliminate bumpy feel because of the design by default. Whereas the car-based trucks like the Ridgeline is basically nothing more than an SUV with a pickup bed in the back. So this is basically a Honda Pilot shaped in the form of a truck. And therefore it drives exactly like a Honda Pilot, or for that matter, like a Honda Passport as well. And if you're just driving it and you don't look back, you will not even know this is a pickup bed. You'll just believe that this is SUV. And that has many advantages because 99% of you will not be taking these vehicles off-road. And even people like myself who really like going off-roading will admit that I only do that a few times a year. And so most of the time we're driving on the road, in the city, on the highway. And for that reason, you can't beat monocoque body or unitized body trucks. They're smooth, they're comfortable, as demonstrated by this Ridgeline. When you drive it, it's absolutely smooth, and anyone can drive this and feel comfortable, unlike some trucks where people just might not be comfortable driving them. The third point is obviously related to the second point, and that's something I already talked about a bit, which is the off-road capability. If you want to take these trucks to true off-road places and drive over some rugged road, and you don't want to worry about the actual vehicle itself getting damaged, you have to go with the body on the frame. There's absolutely no question that Ridgeline or some of its competitors such as Ford Maverick and Hyundai Santa Cruz simply cannot compete with body on the frame trucks like Tacoma, Colorado, Jeep Gladiator, and so forth. Those have a real capability. You can take them to some of the toughest conditions and they're going to survive, and they're going to maybe even thrive. Whereas something like this, you just want to do a light duty off-roading, but not true off-road. And that is also a very important critical factors. But again, keep in mind that most of you, even the people who likes off-roading like myself, simply do not take these trucks off-roading that often, and therefore it might be kind of a moot point. The fourth point is to do with the practicality and roominess, and this is where monocoque body or unitized body trucks are definitely advantageous because they have more space, more room, simply because the cabin is not occupied by extra frame underneath. So we have more height, more space this way. And this Ridgeline is actually pretty wide, so we get a really good width, very comfortable seat, huge center console, but also in the back we have basically a complete flat floor, which is also advantageous. And by the way, I can actually flip this seat on both sides and just lock in place, and voila, we have a huge storage space. And many pickup trucks do have this space underneath, but I just find the Honda version to be easier because it just flips up. I can just push this down and the actual leg will come out automatically, lock in place. And there's another advantage which I will show you. And that advantage can only happen in unitized body trucks because we have a hidden compartment right here. And it's actually huge. I can literally go in there and lie down. This thing is underneath a pickup bed, which is not possible with other trucks because they have a frame underneath, and therefore you simply cannot put this kind of storage. And so this one is really, really helpful. It's got a gasket here. It's completely sealed. And they also say you can put ice and so forth and make it into a huge cooler because of the drain hole. It is a very large, usable compartment. It's almost as big as a normal trunk in sedans. So it's really huge. Compact spare tire is up there. And so this is one advantage, because it's also lockable with right here. So let me close this up. Now, unfortunately, this one doesn't come with a lockable tailgate though. So that's one disadvantage of this particular setup here. And just getting back to the pickup here, it is also easier to get things. I can reach the bottom and actually lift things up because it's not as deep, and that could be either good or not so good thing for you. If you want to store something very tall, like a tall cooler, then this might be a bit of a problem because it's pretty shallow here. But on the other hand, it is just easier for people to take things in and out. And I found this pickup bed to be very useful when I was moving things around. And it's all composite as well, so you're not going to be able to damage this. It's hard plastic and it's tough. So I think the practicality is really good. Obviously we have a small window that opens just like in most other trucks. This doesn't roll down like in Tundra, but in terms of general practicality and roominess, it is definitely better in this one than in other midsize trucks. The fifth thing to keep in mind is the difference in drivetrain. This one is all-wheel drive versus many midsize trucks, which are usually part-time four-wheel drive, and you have to engage into four-wheel drive. Although many of the competitors also offer all-wheel drive, such as the Tacoma for the first time now has all-wheel drive in its limited model. But other car-based trucks like Ford Maverick, for example, Honda Santa Cruz, are available as front-wheel drive as well. So you have a couple of different options. In either case, I think the car-based trucks such as the Ridgeline has a superior all-wheel drive system, and you don't have to worry about shifting from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive like you have to do in most pickup trucks. Now you're going to enjoy the sixth point because it's to do with the engine. And if you go back a few years ago, almost all midsize trucks had the V6. But as time goes, almost every single midsize trucks have now migrated to a turbocharged four-cylinder engine, including the Tacoma. But here we still have a good old-fashioned V6 engine, 3.5 liter in displacement, the same engine you'll find in other Honda SUVs, good for 280 horsepower. So I really like the V6 in this vehicle. It's smooth, it's comfortable, and of course, it is the right kind of powertrain for a pickup truck. I'm still not crazy about Turbo 4s in many of its competitors, including the Tacoma, which is available in 2.4 turbo or 2.4 turbo with hybrid. And so you only have a few choices now with the V6. This one, you can also get a V6 in the Jeep Gladiator, and the Ford Ranger, the new model, has a V6 in its Raptor model. I almost forgot, the Nissan Frontier also still has a V6 engine. But aside from that, everyone has moved on to Turbo 4, but this one still has V6. So I think it's a really smooth, good engine, well matched to this vehicle. And once again, this is one of the reasons why the Ridgeline feels exactly like an SUV, very comfortable, very predictable and balanced. And most people will really enjoy driving this because it just drives like any other SUV. The seventh key difference is the fact that Honda Ridgeline comes in one configuration, one size. There's no longer or shorter pickup bed. There's no wider doors or shorter doors. It's all the same configuration. And that's the same for Hyundai Santa Cruz and Ford Maverick as well. Whereas in all the other midsize trucks, including Tacoma, but also Canyon and Colorado, you have many different options. You can get a longer bed in the back. You can get, in some cases, a shorter rear doors to provide that longer bed in the back. And there are many different versions and trims available, whereas the car-based trucks are lower volume, more of a niche vehicle, so they tend to provide a lot less options in terms of configuration. So that's something to keep in mind. If you need a lot of space in the pickup bed and you want the maximum space here, well, you have to buy a body-on-frame trucks because they're the ones that provide those options. The eighth and the final point I want to talk about, comparing the Ridgeline to a Tacoma, or really comparing any car-based trucks to frame-based trucks, is the overall comfort, refinement, and really good NVH, or noise, vibrations, and harshness. your passengers will love you for taking a car-based truck out on a long drive or long trips compared to frame-based trucks, because it is so much quieter and smoother and more refined, and these vehicles just feel like a normal SUV. So I think if you're the type of person who likes to go for long trips, or you want to carry a lot of passengers and you don't need to do a lot of off-roading, honestly, just buy the Honda Ridgeline. This is the best out of all the car-based trucks compared to, let's say, Ford Maverick, or compared to a smaller Hyundai Santa Cruz, because this one feels most refined and most comfortable, and it's quieter, and the engine is fantastic. So that's my last point, is that if you want the maximum comfort and refinement and smoothness, and you don't need to do a lot of off-roading, and or you only need to do occasional light duty off-roading, truthfully, the Honda Ridgeline makes so much more sense than Tacoma or any other body-on-frame trucks. That's my honest opinion anyway. Even though many loyal truck buyers will say this is not a real truck and they kind of look down on this vehicle, actually from engineer's perspective, this is a superior product with great comfort, really smooth, refined ride, very predictable handling, balanced feel all around, and most of all, it has a good value, lots of room inside, and it's very usable. And I love the hidden compartment underneath the truck bed. That thing is huge and very usable. So if I were to buy a truck, even though most likely I'll end up with something like a Tacoma TRD Pro because I like the truck feel, to be honest, something like this makes more sense. So that's my conclusion comparing the Honda Ridgeline to Toyota Tacoma, which is the same thing as comparing the car-based truck to a frame-based truck. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you liked my video and enjoy it, please give me a thumbs up, make some comments, and if you haven't done so yet, would you kindly subscribe as well. Until next video, I'm signing off for now. Thank you so much.